Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about a wonderful way of transformation in which we'll learn how to become an energy worker to help heal your own body, mind, and spirit. We'll discover the differences between what our guest does and the work of a counselor. We'll also explain about energy work connected to dance and to the possibility of experiencing past lifetimes as well as other dimensions. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Gabi, as we talk about the real world of energy work as a tool for personal growth. Gabi, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Hi, Daniel, and hi, everybody.
Now, Gabi,
thank you for having me on your show.
You betcha. Glad to have you here. Now, tell me, first of all, what is your professional background for the work that you do?
My background is I'm a social worker. I studied in Germany. I grew up in Germany and stayed there most of my life and have been here in America for the last 18 years. And once I was here, I kind of expanded my work. I went into child and family therapy and worked as a therapist for 7 years in Washington State. And I discovered my love for Ayurveda. I studied Ayurveda. I studied both in America and in India with Indian doctors to learn more about a different approach to health than Western medicine. And that kind of led me into energy medicine. And I studied with Dr. Richard Bartlett, who developed this approach of matrix energetics that helps people heal on an energetic level. I'm also a minister, and the work I do, it's a mix of counseling, coaching, energy work. Yeah, so much about that.
Well, very good. Now, I'm curious, how did you become an energy healer?
It really woke me up when I did the training for Matrix Energetics. I loved that work, and it kind of reminded me of something that I knew deep inside, but I had never, ever seen it in this lifetime, how you can change energy with energy and create different physical outcomes. It was kind of really surprising for me. It spoke to me very deeply, and I just wanted to do that. I knew I needed to do that. That's why I was here. And I just developed this work. I went to many, many workshops. I became a facilitator for that work, and I started doing sessions. And I've done hundreds and probably thousands of sessions, and in each session I'm learning something new, and I learn directly from the energy field. I learn directly from the guides and angels that showed up from the very beginning as soon as I started doing the work. And I believe this learning process is never going to end. It just continues and expands, and there are so many resources other than books, because there's the Book of Life that some people call the Akashic Records that we can learn from directly.
Now, what is it about the work that you do that really, drives you, that you love about it?
I have always been very compassionate. I've always been empathic. I've always had the desire to support people. I've always had the desire to eliminate suffering. And this work has given me tools to very efficiently and very fast help other people. So usually, like within an hour's time, there are such enormous and huge shifts that occur for people. Some people have said, for example, they've gone to counseling for 25 years. They still have the same issue. That's because of the nature of the work that I do and because of the support from the angels that comes. We can go very deep very fast and usually go to the root cause and find it and change it. Not just find it, not just talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, but make these energetic shifts that you really have a different outcome.
Now, what I'm curious about, there are people that can come to you with a wide range of challenges. And tell us how your work is different from, let's say, a counselor.
Yeah. So people may tell me why they come and what they need or what they think they need or what they think the problem is. And usually what they are talking from is the world of their thoughts in their mind. So I do listen to the words. I will address it. But I'm listening at a much deeper level as well. And first, so what I'm listening to is everything that is not being said, but everything that vibrates in their field, like the tone of the voice, the messages hidden below, the tension in the body. So I start reading the energy field, and I can tell where energy is blocked. Very frequently that is in the throat chakra, and that's the chakra of self-expression. Frequently it is the solar plexus. That's the chakra where we receive energy from other people. Like if somebody is mean to us or nasty or talks in a negative way, like that's where we get energetically hit. It can be any area of the body, really. Sometimes it's a foot or an elbow, that starts talking to me. And then I kind of speak directly to these patterns that are showing up. And I start working with them with movement and start clearing and shifting the energy. And as the energy is shifting, I'm receiving more information. Let's say it was an elbow I started working with. And it doesn't mean that the person who comes had pain in the elbow or an injury. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. It's just like energetic information is there. And that could be from this lifetime. It could be from another lifetime. It could be from an experience in the childhood. It could be all kinds of different energies. It could be an energy attachment, a different being that maybe doesn't belong there. So I can kind of help remove those energies that need to go. And what was your question again?
Well, the question was, how you're different from, let's say, someone going to a counselor.
Right. So I can be a counselor, and I can be a counselor to many different aspects of a person. For example, we all still carry elements from our childhood. Let's say everybody has like a 6-year-old that's still inside of us, or a 15-year-old, or the 32-year-old. And sometimes they need some counseling because it never was addressed. So sometimes in sessions I do speak to those aspects that are younger and still kind of need completion. Like in Gestalt therapy, you would say you always try to complete what needs completion, and then the person can have peace and move on, or be aware of something, become aware of a part that they have neglected or haven't paid enough attention to. Could be a part within the soul that is acting up now, unconsciously, because it never got the attention, just like children do. They act up when they are being ignored. They'll act up until they get the attention. So sometimes, let's say a stomach ache or a headache or an elbow that's hurting, can mean that there's a part within ourselves that needs to be listened to. And it'll hurt and act up until we really do the deep work. And that's something I can support people with. And often they make discoveries that are really astounding to them. Often it's leading back to other lifetimes. And that, for example, normal counselors would not be able to kind of track. But in my work, energetically, there are portals, energetic portals that open up, and all of a sudden we might find ourselves in Greece or in Egypt or in a Native American lifetime. And oftentimes there's trauma that has occurred that still wants healing and closure. And then after that happens, that part can be integrated, and there's a greater peace around it. And usually people don't know about these lifetimes, but once they hear about it, it usually makes a lot of sense to them. And they kind of have a deeper understanding of who they are, where they're going, why they have certain desires, or why there's a certain love for a certain person, or a particular dislike of a person, or why they have a fear around snakes, a fear around rats, a fear of fire or heights or flying. There's a lot of, seemingly inexplainable fears that people carry in this lifetime, but when you look at other lifetimes, it makes a lot of sense.
It's also interesting what you're describing here, and I was wondering, when you talk about clients, would you be able to share examples of how you have been able to help someone?
Yeah. So one thing is, oftentimes, some of the time, people come because they have lost a loved one, and the loved one is still around them. Sometimes people are able to communicate with them, but some people not so much. But when that loved one is still close in the energy field and wants to kind of connect in that session, I can connect to that energy of that loved one that is still around but not in a physical body. And that loved one can talk to me, I can talk to him or her. And so I can be a communicator between that loved one and my client. And those experiences are very touching a lot of the time. They can bring peace. Sometimes people come because they have a loved one who is in the process of dying. And so I can help kind of bring comfort and reassurance and connection to the spiritual side that the person who's about to leave the body is going to go to. I can be a little bit on both sides. If the person that is dying wants to do some work, if there's anything that they still need to resolve while they are on this side, I can help with that. Because oftentimes people wait to leave their body until they have completion with something. I can ask the angels to be there to bring ease to that situation, to help with that transition. And then sometimes after that transition happens, after that person has crossed over into the spiritual world, and my client who's still in this world on the side comes again for sessions, we can also reconnect with that energy that went to the other side. So the sense of family is extended into the other realm. Time and space don't that much play a role as long as the energies are all still around. And that's another part of my work that I really love, that I can connect to these angelic energies, the energies of the fairies and the nature, the ascended masters, like beings that just have a lot more knowledge than we do, or help us to remind how much knowledge is in each one of us. I can also tap into those abilities, that I myself may have had in other lifetimes, and I can help clients remember what abilities and skills they might have had in other lifetimes that they can still draw from, because there are things that they know, but they don't know them consciously, they know them subconsciously. Then sometimes mothers come, and I have a great resonance with that because I have raised 3 children myself. They are adults now. So mothers come and they have adult children, and there are problems. Maybe the son is suicidal. Maybe there are hospitalizations. Maybe there's drug addiction. Maybe the son or the daughter do not even communicate and talk with the mother. And there's a lot of pain and suffering around that. So I can help them find a new approach, a different perspective, work with their own energy so that they feel good. I can also have a conversation with the other person. And I do that by connecting to my own higher self and talking to the higher self of the other person. And they talk back to me. I can hear that conversation. So we can have a conversation over distance. And it has happened more than once that after such a conversation, I got a call from the mother, and she would say, all of a sudden, her son called her after a long, long time, and he called because now he was in rehab. So something trickled down from that information from the higher self. There was a greater awareness of, I really want to do something about my life. I want to create a change. And I need to take new steps. For example, rehab. Or make a phone call to my mother.
This is also fascinating as I'm absorbing what you're talking about here, and I was wondering, I talked earlier, brought up at the beginning of the show about the connection to dance. How is there a connection there?
Okay. I've always had a love for dance. I've done meditative dance. I've done Middle Eastern dance. Movement means a lot to me. I think movement is one of the big patterns that how we recognize each other. Like the way somebody walks through the door, the way somebody pours tea, the way somebody smiles, the way somebody dances through life. It tells us a lot about who that person is. And each movement can either create harmony or disharmony, conscious or unconscious. So I have kind of created my work around dance and movement, and I do that with energy work in that way that I move my hands, I move my arms, I move my whole body to shift the energies. And this movement has become a language to me. Like when my hand moves to the right, when it moves above, when it moves in a circle, when it moves in a spiral, when a portal opens, like there's a lot of movement language that has meaning to me, and I've learned to translate it. That's how I think how my higher self speaks to me and interprets the meaning of things. And I also change energies by clapping and snapping. That's an old shamanic way, how people always have changed energy. Sound can break up energy and disrupt it. Movement, like priestesses in the past, they would also call in or make invocations with movement. There were cosmic dancers in the past who would dance for the peace of the whole country and receive energies in this way. And it's just a beautiful way of connecting. And sometimes the movement is very subtle, sometimes it's very strong. And all I do is I allow the energy to flow all the way through my body and express in physical ways. So it also becomes visible to my client. Like if it's an in-person session, my client can watch what these movements look like. I work a lot by phone, so then in that case they cannot, see it, but they still can feel over distance the same changes that happen. So that's another thing I like about my work, that I can work from anywhere. There's some clients, and I've worked with them by phone, and I've called them from Washington State, I've called them from Hawaii, I've called them from Portland or wherever I am. And in that case also, we can always tap into the energy of the place.
Now, I'm curious, you were talking about lifetimes earlier. How can past lifetimes still influence us now? And if so, how does it do that?
One thing that frequently shows up, like women will come and tell me they have an intuitive gift, or they would like to do more energy work themselves, but maybe they even asked that this gift would be taken away from them because it's scary for them. But then, later they realize I really would like to utilize this gift, but there's a problem. There's something blocking them, and they might end up coming to me. And often what shows up is a lifetime, let's say in the Middle Ages or later, often in Europe, a lifetime connected to the witch hunt, a lifetime where millions and millions of women have been punished, tortured, burned at the stake, and have been accused of being a witch. And in almost all cases, these were wise women who had knowledge about herbs, who would help people. They were healers. And so they ended up being hanged. They ended up being burned. They were tortured. They were incarcerated. And they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything bad. In fact, they did very good things. They were often the healers in the village. And somebody would point their finger at them and single them out. And the Inquisition would punish them. And so if somebody died such a traumatic death, the learning that they take away from that is like, I'm never, ever going to do this again. I'm never, ever going to go near that again. I'm not ever expose myself to the danger of being persecuted in such a way. And then in this lifetime, they may have these gifts. They may know they have this connection, but they are deathly afraid of it. Subconsciously, they will think, if I touch this gift again, if I allow myself to develop it or use it, it will end like it ended in that other lifetime. It'll end bad. So so I'm not going to go there. So then when they come to work with me, I will ask if there's anything that needs to be removed from another lifetime or completed. And then, this particular lifetime for them will open up and I experience it through movement and feeling. I will feel it in myself, what happened. I can feel it, like, if there was a knife that went into their belly, or if they got hung, if they got drowned. And also I can hear their thoughts in that situation. I can connect into the intention of the soul, like after they leave the body. And so when those things become conscious again that were forgotten and not just asleep in the subconscious, then people can consciously make a new decision. They can consciously realize this was another lifetime. They can give compassion to that aspect that had to experience such tragedy and suffering, and they can make a new intention for this lifetime and, double check the reality, like, is there truly danger in this lifetime or is it not? Was that just like a fear that was lingering from a previous experience? And then they can open the door to make a new beginning and embrace the gift. But first, this fear, that subconscious fear, needs to be addressed. And that is the deep healing that can happen.
I'll tell you, your work sounds extremely fascinating. I'm sure that it really helps people move, through what they need to move through so they can enjoy a better quality of life, certainly in this world and in this present time. And I'm curious, how do people find out more about your sessions, and how can they contact you, things like that?
I have a website. The website is www.doortothelight.com. That is door, like the door in the house that you walk through, to the light, like the light of the sun, doortothelight.com. They can call me at 971-251-0477. Again, that's 971-251-0477. Or send me an email to Gabi, Gabi, at doortothelight.com. And I work both by phone and in person.
Well, very good. That's very exciting to hear that people don't have to be right there in front of you if they're not able to be able to do this marvelous work. And Gabi, I want to thank you for bringing this to the world to help people and sharing it here on our program today.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
You bet. It's been a pleasure. One more time for the listeners, give out that website again. www.doortothelight.com. Very good. Gabi Schoening, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. You can also discover more. Visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. Sign up for our weekly e-newsletter and stay up to date on what's going on in Beyond 50's world, as well as upcoming shows. You can also follow us at Twitter and Facebook at Beyond 50 Radio as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 Radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.